All right, my name is Sam. I am the Communications Director for Congresswoman Alma Adams. I'm honored to be here today with our esteemed guests. Congresswoman Alma Adams represents North Carolina's 12th Congressional District in the United States House of Representatives and has done so since 2014. She is the founder and co-chair of both the bipartisan Congressional HBCU Caucus and the Black Maternal Health Caucus. In addition to that, she is the vice chair of the House Committee on Agriculture, the chair of the Education and Labor Subcommittee on Workforce Protections, and a member of the Financial Services Committee in the United States House. Additionally, we're joined today by the Honorable Julie Eiselt. She serves as Mayor Pro Tem for the City of Charlotte and as chair of the Transportation Planning and Environment Committee. We have Mark Jerrell, who is the District 4 County Commissioner for Mecklenburg County, and he additionally serves as the chair of the Mecklenburg County Commission's Intergovernmental Relations Committee. And joining us from the EPA, we have Carlton Waterhouse, who joined the Biden administration as Deputy Assistant Administrator for Land and Emergency Management at EPA. And so we thank you all for being with us today to talk about this important legislation, and I'm proud to introduce and pass it over to Congresswoman Alma Adams.
Thank you very much, Sam, and good morning, everyone. I am Congresswoman Alma Adams, and I'm happy to be here today to talk about President Biden's Build Back Better agenda and Congress's recent passage just last week of a key part of that agenda, the bipartisan infrastructure framework. I'd also like to thank Carlton Waterhouse, Deputy Assistant Administrator for Land and Emergency Management at the Environmental Protection Agency from the Biden administration, Charlotte Mayor Pro Tem Julie Eiselt, who also serves as chair of the Transportation Planning and Environment Committee, and Mecklenburg County Commissioner Mark Jerrell for joining us today to talk about the importance of this legislation. And since tomorrow is Veterans Day, I want to just take a moment to thank all of the veterans on this call for your service and your sacrifice, including Commissioner Jerrell, who has also served in both the United States Army Reserve and the North Carolina Army National Guard. Thank you for your service, Mark. On Friday, Congress voted to pass the bipartisan infrastructure bill and advance the Build Back Better Act. The bipartisan infrastructure framework will invest in infrastructure and create jobs. It's a $1.2 trillion package that will have enormous benefits for the country and for North Carolina. This bill will strengthen our economy. It will secure cleaner air and water and make our communities a better place to live and work by bringing our infrastructure into the 21st century. These investments include improving and expanding and modernizing the Charlotte area transportation system and the link light rail, and providing all CMS students with the broadband connection that they need to succeed. At the beginning of the pandemic, Charlotte Mecklenburg schools estimated 16,000 students didn't have broadband internet access in their homes, and over 8,000 mobile hotspots were distributed by the end of 2020, showing demonstrated need in our community for broadband infrastructure that serves our students and their families. The number one source of air pollution in our community is automobile traffic. So the estimated $911 million for North Carolina under the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act to improve public transportation options across the state, as well as the nationwide investment in electric vehicle charging infrastructure, will make a big difference for our air quality and our fight against climate change. In North Carolina, there are 1,460 bridges and over 3,116 miles of highway in poor condition. Since 2011, commute times have increased by almost 11% in North Carolina, and on average, each driver pays $500 per year in costs due to driving on roads in need of repair. Now, I'm sure this is not a surprise to anyone who drives on I-77. So with this bill, North Carolina would expect to receive $7.2 billion for federal aid highway apportioned programs and $457 million for bridge replacement and repairs. In Huntersville, we're currently facing an environmental crisis where 1 to 2 million gallons of gasoline have already been spilled. Historical incidents like the Colonial Pipeline spill are why the infrastructure bill invests in environmental cleanup and environmental justice. And finally, with the water main break on Remont Road, much of our county just experienced what happens when our aging infrastructure breaks. That pipe, I understand, was 65 years old. 269 miles of our pipes are over 5 decades old. And some of our water infrastructure even dates back to the 1920s. This bill delivers clean drinking water to 10 million families and more than 400,000 schools and child care facilities nationwide, with the largest ever investment in American water infrastructure to replace lead pipes and service lines across the nation. So I look forward to voting for final passage of the Build Back Better Act, which includes all eligible provisions of our omnibus legislation to address the maternal health and morbidity crisis, and it will make robust investments in HBCUs and MSIs. It will expand the safety net for working families, and it will make historic investments in fighting climate change, because the American people are counting on us to act, and that we must do. So I thank you so very much, and I am honored now to introduce Carlton Waterhouse from the Biden administration. Carlton.
Thank you so much, Representative Adams, and thank you to everyone for this opportunity. I'm so honored to be on such an auspicious panel with so many dignitaries from the state, and so excited about what's going on with the infrastructure bill, and also want to highlight the importance of our veterans and thank them for their service, my father being one of them. With regards to the infrastructure framework, as you've mentioned, Representative Adams, this is a huge development that we're having that is really an unprecedented investment in what we're doing for our environment and protecting public health. Because of the leadership that we have from President Biden and those in Congress, like yourself, Representative Adams, EPA is preparing to direct more than $60 billion in resources toward cleaner drinking water, lower carbon emissions, and pollution prevention. In other programs, we have $50 billion to EPA's water programs, targeted funding to replace lead pipes of $15 billion, and to address emerging contaminants like PFAS chemicals, what we sometimes call forever chemicals, to make our drinking water safer for millions of people. $15 billion to transform the nation's school bus fleet to electric vehicles, $100 million for addressing toxic pollutants in communities that are most at risk by targeting communities with environmental justice concerns. These are just the tip of the iceberg of all of the investments that we have that are going to really transform environmental protection across the country in many ways. Within the Superfund program, which is part of what is ministered through my office, we have a historic $3.5 billion investment and the restatement of the Superfund tax on chemical producers. This allows us within this office to work faster and more effectively in cleaning up communities. It will help us eliminate the backlog of remedial projects that were awaiting funding at the start of this last fiscal year. And it also accelerates and helps us to complete work at literally hundreds of ongoing cleanup projects and to begin additional projects that are waiting for support to get moving across the country. Thanks to Superfund cleanups, we get a lot of things done well in our society. Properties that were left barren and underdeveloped and abandoned are now being used for purposes like retail businesses, grocery stores, office space, public parks, residents, and places where housing is so important, warehouses, and even renewable energy generation. We're also excited about an investment in the Brownfields Grants program that is $1.5 billion to scale up our community-led brownfields revitalization projects for sites that are either polluted or perceived as polluted across the country. And these grants are really critical because they get money to people on the ground to help get their sites that are of concern assessed and evaluated to see whether there's contamination, cleaned up when there is contamination, and then also to provide important worker training grants that really transform people's lives by getting work opportunities that create new careers for people. Beyond that, we're also getting support for recycling and materials management in the order of $350 million. That's going to allow us to build up our municipal solid waste materials infrastructure that has been too underinvested in for too long, to give new communities and other communities that are faced with overburdens of pollution opportunities to reduce, reuse, compost, and recycle waste. And lastly, with regards to environmental justice, we know that communities of color are particularly likely to live within 3 miles of a Superfund site, and nobody should have to bear that burden. And so this investment allows us to be able to give greater attention to accelerate cleanups in these communities that are overburdened and to help put resources in place to help transform these communities that now are able to have investments to build them up the way they want to see them built up. So we're excited about what's happening, the new climate benefits that are going to happen in terms of making sure our cleanups are resilient, the new investments in local infrastructure that will improve health, create good paying jobs, and increase our protectiveness around the country. The infrastructure deal and the Build Back Better plan provide a historic investment in the health, equity, and resilience of American communities. And we're thankful and grateful to have this opportunity to talk to you about it. And with that, I will pass things over to our Mayor Pro Tem, Julie Eiselt.
Thank you very much, Carlton. I appreciate it. Thank you, Congresswoman, for inviting me to speak today. The city is so appreciative of your outstanding support and advocacy for the city of Charlotte. Carlton, thank you for your comments. Stormwater remediation, waste management is really critical to municipalities and to rural areas alike. So appreciate the work that the federal government is doing as well in that area. And I too want to express my appreciation for the service and the sacrifice of our country's veterans. Over the last few years, the Charlotte City Council has strongly advocated for new federal investment in infrastructure, including in public transportation, aviation, highways, rail, sustainability and resiliency, especially for our aging infrastructure, as the Congresswoman mentioned, and also for digital inclusion. This is a once-in-a-generation bipartisan infrastructure plan, and it provides for a number of critical needs throughout our nation. In particular, relevant here to the local area, in public transportation, the $39 billion over 5 years will provide partial funding to help our region transition to an all-electric bus fleet and continue the implementation of the region's 2030 transit corridor plan. Of course, we're going to need other additional revenue sources, but we're grateful for any match that will come from this, this bill. In the area of aviation, $25 billion over 5 years for advanced critical airfield improvement in terminal projects is tremendous. And locally, we have current airfield and terminal projects in process, including the 4th parallel runway at CLT, the terminal lobby expansion, and the phase 2 of the Concourse A expansion. In the area of highways, $110 billion over 5 years will help us to reconnect communities that have been separated because of past infrastructure projects. It'll help to deploy porous pavements and expand tree cover in high poverty neighborhoods. It promotes pedestrian safety and enhances the city's Vision Zero program. And for funding for passenger and freight rail, that could help us to eliminate at-grade crossings that impact neighborhoods and provide danger to residents. And partnering with our railroads will also allow us to enhance and support safety enhancements. We hope that federal funding for sustainability and resiliency will help us to leverage private and public sector investments in electric vehicle charging infrastructure here and throughout the state, and enhance cybersecurity programs for states and local governments. And finally, we are excited to see $65 billion over 5 years for digital inclusion. And that's to deploy broadband infrastructure and address affordability issues of low-income households, again, here and in particular rural parts of the state. We have a great need for that here too. So again, thank you to Congress and especially to our Congresswoman Alma Adams for working on behalf of the needs of our region and to help move us forward with this historic funding bill. Thank you. I'm sorry, and now I'm going to turn it over to the Honorable Mark Jerrell, my counterpart, colleague, but on the Board of County Commissioners of Mecklenburg County.
Thank you so much, and good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having me, first of all, to our Congresswoman. I also want to give a special acknowledgement to our veterans. It's because of your service and sacrifice that we all even have the honor to sit in the seats that we do and serve in the capacity that we do. So thank you, and to everyone joining us today. I bring you greetings from the Board of County Commissioners. I serve as the Intergovernmental Chair, and it is an honor to be here to discuss the great investments that are being made in our community. The Build Back Better Act really provides unprecedented opportunities for Mecklenburg County residents. It offers a significant opportunity for collaboration around these infrastructure projects with our city colleagues and really our colleagues across the region. It provides support in areas directly in the purview of the county when you think about issues related to healthcare, environmental justice at the county. We've recently enacted our Environmental Leadership Action Plan, really focused on ensuring that more equity is focused on, particularly as it relates to our Black and Brown residents. And our universal pre-K effort is something that this act is going to really help us to significantly impact. Internet access for our low-income families, and overall just allowing us the opportunity to diversify our economy. In addition, the investments align with our goals of reducing racial disparities in all the areas that impact the quality of life for our residents. And we know that this funding will be transformational. We believe at the county that investments made today in our families, particularly those working families, will pay dividends into the future. So we are very excited. We appreciate and are so thankful for the representation we have and Congresswoman Adams and for her continued advocacy for our residents and continuing to fight the good fight. And it is an honor to be here once again, and we thank you. And at this point, I will turn it over to Sam.
Very much, Commissioner Jerrell, and thank you everybody for being on the chat. So members of Team Adams are answering questions in the Q&A. I also see that we have a hand up, so I would like to allow Susan Milligan a chance to ask her question really quickly. Susan has a question about how we're going to talk about the Build Back Better Act and the bipartisan infrastructure bill. So if you are on, Susan, you are now live to ask your question.
Oh, thank you. I am on, and great hat, Congresswoman. I just wanted to know whether there have been, there's obviously been more of an effort here to sort of sell, for want of a better expression, the infrastructure plan as well, the Build Back Better Act. Are there lessons here learned from, the Affordable Care Act, where the administration kind of moved on to the next thing and didn't really go around the country explaining it and taking credit for it, particularly as you have the Build Back Better Act, vote coming up? Can you talk a little bit more about the plans to explain this to people? A lot of the polling I've seen indicates people don't really know what's in these bills. They might have a sense of the amount, but that's pretty much it. Thanks.
Well, we'll start with Congresswoman Adams on that one.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you very much. I saw another interesting question I want to respond to as well. But thank you so much for your question. You're absolutely right. I'm not sure that people know all the incredible things that we have in this bill. Of course, you know, it took us some time to get this bill out, even though we did have an opportunity to put the bill together some time ago. We are working, and I'm sure that the administration is as well, but there's a lot of responsibility being directed toward members of Congress to do some of the things that we're doing today, but to also get out into the community. And I think we have a responsibility to do that, to let folks know how this bill impacts them. So we'll be going around our county to do that. We'll be putting together some town halls and other kinds of programs so that people understand what's in the bill for them. I mentioned a couple of things in terms of how the bill is going to impact some of the problems that we're having in our county. But we may even join with the county board and the city to put together some kind of joint presentation where we can actually get out into the public to do it. But I want to assure you that certainly we're going to make sure that people understand what's in it and how what's in it can benefit their communities. We mentioned a couple of them earlier in terms of the problems we're having with the gas leaks, with the gasoline leaks, the problems that we're having with the bridges that need to be repaired. Some of the emphasis in terms of what we need to continue to do at our airport, how we need to connect communities through the public transit system. So there's a lot that we're going to do, that the bill will do to impact Mecklenburg County as well as our state. But thank you so very much for that question.
Thank you. And does anybody else on the panel want to take that question?
Sure, Sam. I'll just comment that once we know which projects that are shovel ready and will get some funding, once that happens, I think that we locals have a responsibility to explain to people what some of those projects are. In North Carolina, for example, I believe we have just behind Texas the most state roads of any state. And that's a tremendous amount of roads that are in desperate need of repair. Right now, we have a big problem in our own state DOT just to keep up with that maintenance of those roads. We saw the hole that was in I-40 a couple of weeks ago. And so there's just really critical infrastructure needs that once we know specifically what from this bill will be applied to local projects, then we can really start out, get out of the box and tell people how that will be funded and what it's going to go towards.
Yeah, Julie, I want to just add that messaging is so important. And I think it's important for us to be able to even get some messaging out on the highways as projects are being undertaken to have some signage to say this is a project of this. And I think at the airport, there's a sign out there that says "excuse the delay." But I think with delays that might come as a result of the work that we have to do, I think people won't mind that.
Sure. And to that point, there are projects that are shovel ready that have been part of the Charlotte Regional Transportation Planning Organization, the airport work, and we just don't know if we're going to get the assistance on our regional transit plan that has been promoted, but it's hard to say whether or not those projects will get the funding or not.
And Congresswoman, if I can just add one thing to piggyback, one of the things as it relates to messaging and communication, it's really important for us to understand that we're going to have to not only come together, as you said, but we're also going to have to find some alternative means to reach the people that we're trying to help. A lot of times we're implementing these initiatives, and the people that the intended targets are sometimes missed, and that's because of the barriers that a lot of people are facing. And so I think having that collaborative effort is going to be so important so that we can make sure that the information is disseminated to the people that we want to reach.
Great. Thanks, Mark.
Well, great. Well, thank you all for your answers there. Now we have a question from Tina, and I'm going to recognize Tina, who has a question about broadband. So Tina, if you want to unmute, you're now live. All right. Well, if Tina can't go unmute, I will read her question from the chat.
I'm here.
Oh,
I'm
hey.
here.
Thank you,
Sorry
Tina.
about that. So thank you, first of all, Congresswoman Adams. This is really important. Myself as a veteran, I'm currently jobless. I spoke in front of City Council a couple months back. I was wrongfully terminated. And it's been quite a struggle to get my applications. I'm not sure if you folks are familiar. Almost everything is now through the internet. You have to upload your applications. You do your job searches. I unfortunately am in a drop zone. It's been verified by the servicemen out here from Verizon, Spectrum, AT&T. I could no longer afford to pay for broadband that only refreshes, stops, recycles, and I couldn't get things, my applications in and do job searches. Your phone doesn't work. Like for TSA, I applied for TSA. I'm still waiting since June to hear if I gotten that job. But to do these things, you require internet. I was wrongfully terminated. I'm not getting unemployment. So every penny counts. I was working temporarily through Live Nation doing some staging. And I want to thank Councilman Braxton Winston for getting me that. But I'm really counting on my pennies and trying to have internet. I have to go off site. So today I have to go to Goodwill just to look at applications and try to get my application into them. That costs me money and time that for someone else, they may not even think about it. So it's not only important for our students, but for us job seekers. You know, and like I said, I'm a veteran, and it at my age, this is really a struggle that I'm 61, and this is what I'm going through. I can't imagine what families are going through. So how are we going to make sure that the broadband is equitable? Because out here where I live, it's inadequate, it's a drop zone, and you can't pay for something that doesn't help you.
Thank you, Tina, for the question. Who wants to take it?
Let me just begin by, first of all, Tina, thank you for your service. And I certainly can appreciate the comments that you've made and the struggles that you're having as a result of not having the internet and the broadband in your area. And one of the things that we found, particularly during this time of COVID, is the inequities and the discrepancies in our community in terms of people not being able to get connected. This is why in this bill and even the one to come, broadband is a key issue, and that is something that we're going to address, and we're going to make sure that every home in every part of our county and our state has access. So whoever needs to get on it, whether it's an adult or whether it's a child, it will be available to you. I would also ask you to reach out to my office, and we're going to see what we can do maybe to get you connected a little bit more in terms of your employment situation. But I just want to emphasize, it's kind of piggybacking on Mr. Waterhouse, in terms of these jobs that are going to be available. We're not going to discriminate against gender for, regarding gender, race, or anything. And so I suspect that some of these jobs that will be coming available, that they will be available for anyone who wants to apply. It does not require, they don't require, they're good paying jobs, don't require necessarily a college degree. And so I would encourage everyone to take a look at that. I also want to, Sam, I saw a question in here about persons of color African Americans, I think it was the question, and how we're going to make sure that the minority, to ensure that minority contractors get their fair share. I will tell you that the Congressional Black Caucus addressed this issue just last week when we were there to make sure that these jobs that are coming on as a result of the bill of this BIF, this infrastructure package, that we're going to make sure that our contractors, minority contractors as well, have an opportunity to get their fair share. That's something that we're very concerned about, as we were concerned with the PPP, and we saw that there was some discrepancies there as well. So thank you, Tina. Make sure you reach out to my office, and we're going to see if we can't connect you in another way.
Any other panelist comments on broadband access in the community?
And Sam, if you'll put my number in there, the office number, that will be helpful. And of course, if staff has any comments to make in addition to the things that we're making, please let us know that so we can hear from you and get your expertise as well.
Yes, thank you. And for everybody listening with us, the number for our office is 704-344-9950 if you need help with a constituent issue. Again, the Adams office, 704-344-9950. So we've had somebody waiting very patiently on Twitter Spaces. So we have a question from Twitter, and I'm going to turn it over to Lula.
Thanks, Sam. Hi, everyone. Lula Dwale here. I am actually really excited to see folks utilizing Twitter Spaces to find new ways to.
Can't hardly hear her, Sam. Can she speak up? Or?
Can you hear me now?
Better, yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Sam. I just want to say I'm really excited to see folks on here, especially Twitter Spaces. But my question is for Representative Adams regarding the Build Back Better Plan Act and how care workers specifically, and especially long-term care workers, how they'll be affected. I think, you know, by and large, we know that the majority of care workers are Black, Indigenous, and Latinx women and immigrants. So, you know, as we are here today, I was hoping that you could share a little bit if care workers and the investment in care economy will still be included. And if so, like, how will that shift things for care workers here in Mecklenburg County?
Okay, can I get one of my experts on this line, my staff?
Yeah, who from the staff would like to handle care economy?
Who's on? I'm trying to see who's up here. Gordon?
So
Yeah.
for anybody who didn't hear it, the question is on the care economy. What is the infrastructure bill and the Build Back Better Act going to do to strengthen the care economy, especially because the vast majority of care economy workers are BIPOC and women?
The vast majority, or I didn't hear the rest of it.
Are Black, Indigenous, people of color.
Well, I think, oh, go ahead.
Christopher. Thanks for the question. The Build Back Better Act makes numerous transformative investments, especially in the care economy, and particularly as it pertains to maternal health by providing a number of transformative grants to strengthen the healthcare workforce, especially for addressing maternal health issues and mental health workforce as well. Hopefully that addresses the crux of the question.
Okay. Does anybody else want to add to that? I'll just add to it by saying specifically that one big thing that our office is proud of in the Build Back Better Act is the inclusion of most of the omnibus framework that not only helps stop the maternal health crisis, but also includes culturally competent solutions and training to make sure that that people are trained better. I believe that, we also have a lot of good wage information in that bill. So going next, we have a lot of questions in the chat, so I'm going to try and get to as many of them as possible. Thank you so much for everybody who is listening, but I do want to do a quick question that I've received, and I'll direct this to Mr. Waterhouse. How would you say that, are there any major projects in North Carolina where the infrastructure bill will help, or, what is this money that's going towards environmental remediation going to do?
Thanks so much for the question, Sam. I would say that from the standpoint of North Carolina, I don't know that we have any unfunded starts in that are in play. We do know there's some current NPL sites in the 12th district that we're going to investigate whether or not some of them might have accelerated funding. But as of right now, we don't have any projects that are waiting for funding, but there may be some opportunities for acceleration. Certainly there are opportunities for some Brownfields Grants funding. I'm not aware of any awarded recently in that district. And so it'd be wonderful if we could have some additional funding, and I'd be happy, representative, to come down and talk to folks, or have folks on my staff to talk to people about getting Brownfields Grants applications out on the ground. We are currently looking to expand the number of people who are applying, and therefore the number of people who will get these grants. In fact, these grants do everything from doing, as I said, worker training, which can be transformative because people are getting skills that allow them to do asbestos abatement, lead abatement, environmental, phase 1 evaluations, environmental cleanup work. And really, it allows people to go in and get preferences in some degree, in some cases, for cleaning up in their own communities. So it includes not only training, but placement, which is really vital. But beyond the worker training, we also have technical assistance to Brownfields Grants, which often go to universities and other organizations that then serve as a infrastructure point for community members and organizations that want to apply for Brownfields Grants to have assistance and support from a local entity. So we're really looking at getting more grants out, and particularly more grants to community groups and groups on the ground. So it really can be transformative for taking places that have been contaminated and turning them into, green spaces, turning them into housing, turning them into grocery stores, whatever the people in the community would like to see and are in need of. So those projects can happen as soon as we have people who get tied in to take advantage of these opportunities. And on the Superfund front, again, we're looking to see whether there's some acceleration opportunities for people in your district, Congressman. One more thing I'll just note is the lead service line money is huge. And so those funds will be available to help decrease the number of people who have impacts from lead and potential adverse impacts to children because of lead contamination in their water coming from lead service lines. And so we certainly are excited about the opportunity to see funding in North Carolina to do lead service line replacement.
Thank you very much, Mr. Waterhouse. And so we have a hard stop at 11:45 today. So I have to give the last question now. And the last question is going to go to Tracy, who has a question about housing in Charlotte.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you loud and clear. Thank you so much for being on, Tracy.
Awesome. I feel so honored to be here with this distinguished panel. What a great day for me. I just want to let you know that I've been an accountant or in the field of accounting and finance for quite some time. Housing, jobs, the environment, all of those things I have a great passion for as a resident here in Charlotte, North Carolina, an African-American resident here in Charlotte, North Carolina for 21 years. Just recently, I left a company, a very large corporation that is in Germany. They're located in Germany, but have an office here. I was their accountant, their office manager, da-da-da-da. What happened to me was absolutely horrible. I reached out to the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. We had a meeting, a mediation with the company, and I'm happy to say that I did win my case. What it did do for me is allow me the freedom and opportunity to be assistance to you if I can. I don't know how to address you. I see Honorable Mark Jerrell. Is that correct? You mentioned that the information, like for instance, how to get a grant, how we can help out, how we can support you to get the information to the residents that most need it. I would like to be a part of that. Also, my mother, who lives in South Carolina, was a victim of the flood. The PD River runs behind her house. But yet she wasn't one of the people to receive any type of funding, as well as her neighbors, to get the assistance that she needs. The funds were mismanaged. Today, that area, investors have come in and purchased most of the homes. My mom's home is the only home left. We had some issues like that here in Charlotte, North Carolina as well. And as I said before, I'm passionate. I now have the time. I like to volunteer or be appointed to any committees. I don't know if you've created them or not, or if they will be created, so that we can make sure that the funds get to the people that need it the most. I'm reaching my senior year, so over the last 40 years, I've seen this happen from Massachusetts to Florida, where the funding comes in and then the people that need it the most don't get the help. Or as Mr. Jerrell said, they don't know where to find the information that they need to get to the help. In fact, right now I'm sitting here, you have an accounting person, finance. I love to be on an appointed committee or a volunteer to help and make sure the people that need your help get it. I'm Boots.
Tracy, thank you so much for the question. Mark, I'm going to let you answer that. Both you and Julie can talk about all the ways people can get involved in the community and maybe join a board or commission.
Sure. Thank you so much for your comments. You raised some really important points. One of the things we are always looking for folks that want to lend their time and talent to this community, and you seem to have an abundance of both. And so it would be, we would certainly welcome you to be a part of a board or a commission. We have not established any committees with respect to the act that we're discussing today, but would love to get your information so that I can have someone or myself follow up with you and make sure that we keep you abreast and make sure that you have access to that information.
Yeah, I'll join on in with Mark's comments also. Tracy, thank you for offering your talents and your time and your service to this cause, because it is really important. I saw another comment in there that Nimish had that was sort of related with regards to getting information out to people and how critical that's going to be. We too have boards and commissions on the charlottenc.gov website. There's different boards and commissions you can join, none specific to getting the money out from this bill yet. But when we got our CARES Act allocation that went directly to the city of Charlotte, we did organize efforts to put ambassadors in different locations to help people access that money. We still have a lot of money for rent and utilities right now. And if you call 311 in the Charlotte area, you can ask where to go for that, to get that kind of assistance. But there is money from the CARES, well, mostly from the ARPA, the second round of stimulus money, still available for that. But I really like the idea of bringing back the concept of ambassadors to help get the money out from these plans that, from the bill, and also from our ARPA money as well. So I did put my email address in the chat for Nimish, and please feel free to reach out to me, because I think it's a great idea. And we could certainly talk about having some sort of a committee that whose job would be to organize ways to communicate and work with people to get the funding to where it needs to go on an expedited basis as quickly as we can.
Thank you very much, Mayor Pro Tem. I'm sorry we weren't able to get to every question today. However, we are continuing to answer questions in the chat. And of course, we have everybody's email. So we're happy to follow up with you. Additionally, if you have more questions, you can go to adams.house.gov. Any constituent can ask a question on that page. So thank you very much for joining us today. We're at our stopping point, but I did want to give any of the panelists a chance to say any last words before I give Congresswoman Adams the chance to close us out.
Just thank you again for the invitation, Congresswoman, and so good to be on the panel with you and with my other fellow panelists.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Congresswoman. We appreciate everything that you do for the community. It was great to be a part of this panel. And thank you to all of our residents that showed up and just show your continued care and concern for our community.
I will extend my appreciation as well. Thank you, Congresswoman, for your hard work up in Washington. Keep it going. We got to push it over the goal line with this next package. But for now, we're so grateful this infrastructure bill passed.
Well, let me thank all of the panelists for joining us today and all of the citizens out there who tuned in. We have a specific message, Sam, so I hope you get this to, I think it says to Tina. There is a part-time, they're looking for part-time workers, and this gentleman, Chris, has put his information in here for her to contact him, so please make sure that she gets that. But I just want to say to the panelists, to Mr. Waterhouse, and I certainly want to commend our administration and the president for this very invigorating push that we're going to have for not only our country, but for our community. It's one of the, it's a matter of fact, it is the most extensive and major piece of legislation for infrastructure that we've had in this country. If you've traveled throughout our state and throughout our county, you know that we do need to pay greater attention and put some support behind our infrastructure. If you live in the upper parts of the county and you know that the oil and the gas leak has become a problem, and all the mold and all the things that many of the citizens have brought to us, we're hoping and we believe that this bill, the infrastructure bill, will certainly help us to build back better here in our community. So I want to thank Mayor Pro Tem Eiselt, Commissioner Mark Jerrell for not only their support and their service, but also to you as well, Mr. Waterhouse, for your work with the Biden administration. Again, if you have additional questions, and some of the things that have been put in the chat, I've been reading. I agree with much of what's being said here regarding getting our message right and making sure that we get it out and that we get together as not only as a party, but as a Congress. So know that I'm taking all of this very seriously. And Sam, if there's a way to print all of this out for me so I can read it more extensively, I appreciate that. And Sam, thank you very much. And to all of my staff who have joined on today, our LEDGE team and my chief of staff, my district director, everyone who is on the call. Thank you also very much. And to the media, thank you so much to all the press folks who joined us as well. So have a great day. Again, let's continue to keep our veterans in our minds for all of the work and the service that they have provided to our community and to our country, so that we have the freedoms that we have today. So thank you all so very much. And listen, be safe, and take care. It's a beautiful day, I think, here and in Washington. So enjoy the sunshine. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.